Great to be back on the show. Good morning. Good morning. No, we're excited to be here. A lot happening in the St. Louis city sphere, and curious to hear what the fans that aren't as close to it as us are listening and hearing about St. Louis, because the times are evolving.
Yes, and that is kind of why we wanted to catch up with you guys as we're in training camps and find out what life is like there. So who won the toss? Who gets to answer questions first, or at least figure out if they won or deferred?
I'm gonna go with I won and deferred to Jake. I always defer to Jake. He's the absolute founder of this, so I'll let him take the first hard one and then throw me a softball afterwards.
Okay, I see how this works. All right. So Jake, nothing going on in the off season, huh?
No. Absolutely nothing. I mean, just about as much as you could possibly imagine is happening at this club right now. It reminds me of our inception, where we're going out and finding a sporting director finds coach, sporting director and coach find new players. And yeah, it very, very much feels like a rebuild of sorts here at St. Louis City. I think for good reason, two pretty dismal seasons by the standards that were set in year one, which were also probably not a fair standard to set with winning the West. So, I think it's good, but I think it is definitely taking steps back to right the kind of the foundation, get us on the right track, and kind of everyone rowing in the same direction. But I think it's going to be a pretty gritty year from what we're kind of seeing. It's nothing that I also think the expectations are probably pretty low for those around the league for what St. Louis is going to bring, at least this season. But I do think this is going to be a project that will probably take a couple of years to really kind of reach a point where we feel like we're really in a competitive window.
Okay, so then, Justin, let me have you lay out the road here. So everything that happened in the offseason, Joao Klaus no longer there, so he's out the door. You brought in Dante Polvara recently for $500,000. You've got stuff going on touchline, front office. Did I miss anything? What are the gaps here that happened in the offseason that folks are going to be staring at?
I mean, the biggest one is for sure Joao Klaus, our first DP, leading goal scorer for the club, not only last season with 10 goals, but all time. So that's going to be a big one. And right now, we currently do not have a replacement. We've had Johan de Bay go on and in some of his interviews mentioned Simon Betcher, who is a St. Louis alum. Go Bills, basketball as well. Jason, I know you follow that as well. But him and McSorley kind of stepping in the role right now. I know that the team, Corey Ray and team, are looking to find that replacement. We've had some rumors that we've heard about there, but it's not there yet. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's that close either. So we're very likely, or 100% going to be starting the season without a true number 9 for this team, which I think is going to be hurtful for us. Also, when you look at the back line, Henry Kessler is no longer with the team. I would say he was the rock for us when he was healthy. So now with the change in coaching with Johan de May, it looks like we're going back to a back 5. Going to have 3 center backs. And we signed Dante Polvara, but if you didn't hear it this week already, he's going to be pulled back in to be one of those center backs. He will not be in that holding position in front of the back line as well. So that'll be left with Leuven and either Durkin or Edelman, who we signed from New York Rebels. And then that back line will likely be a mix of the two falls, Mbake and Falu, with Baumgartel and or Dante Polvara. But unfortunately, also Falu Fall is injured right now. So it's a lot going on right now. We did re-sign Roman Berkey, obviously. That was way earlier. So we still have that sort of the spine. When you look at him, Leuven, and Hartel, who I think in Hartel is probably one of the best 11 in the MLS when he is on his game. But it's still a lot of moving parts.
12 out, 6 in. For those that don't have the scorecard, out: Alm, Morales, Devin Paleford, Pedro, Watts, Wenzel, Antwi, Jaden Reed, Joey Zielinski, Christian Oliveras, Joao Klaus, Henry Kessler. In: Edelman, as you mentioned, Valum, Santos, Fall, Polvara. Did I miss anybody?
No.
Did I miss anything, Chip?
You just a revolving door. It feels like we're Elf, just going when you visit New York and just running around in a circle. And it's like we can't keep up with the admin.
And this is probably not the end, too. I think this season is more so the beginning. I think if you look at the contract terms for those that we do have on the book still, 2026 is the end for a lot of these contracts, with options for most of them have options for 27 as well. But I think that's when you look at Corey Ray and now Ali Mackay, who's now joining as an assistant sporting director. That was breaking last night, not official yet by the club, but that's, I feel like, when they can probably really kind of put their fingerprints on this and probably make some pretty sweeping overhauls with some of the salaries and, budget charters that are coming off the books, because there will be a lot more flexibility post this season.
And you mentioned, Jake, the front office. Justin, when you look at now the unofficial official look at Mackay and Corey Ray, when you look at the legacy of a gentleman who had issues with Penguins, or just enjoyed time with Penguins, when you look at Luch Pfannenstiel, Justin, what is the legacy of the first front office in St. Louis?
I mean, I think the legacy is still extremely positive. When you think about what Lutz did and created this team from scratch, literally from scratch, was able to pull all these guys. Everybody has opinions on that, whatnot. It was a hell of a first season. I think he obviously always talked about it being a 5-year plan. He started with the club 2 years prior. So, yeah, it kind of ironically ended after those 3 years for him. I do think, and I want to thank him, because I also don't think that we would have Dante Polvara without him coming over from Aberdeen. There were other clubs. Even Columbus was looking at him, and I have a feeling that Lutz was like, no, I'll lock you up for St. Louis if that's something you want to do. So appreciate him and everything he has done. As we see this transition in that front office, I think you're going to see his transition in the makeup of the team. Also, not only from a personality or playing style perspective, but also from where these guys are from. We're no longer going to be that Bundesliga 2 team that everybody always kind of joked about past couple of years, because that was Lutz's like breeding ground, right? I think that was his best connections. Now you think about Corey Ray and team, it's going to look like it's going to be a little bit more U.S. focused, or maybe some pieces from all around, but I don't think it's going to be a direct link to Germany.
So, Jake, I would posit this, that in your first incarnation, stylistically, when to me, at times, it was like looking at the pitcher that got the call up from the minors for the spot start, comes up from AAA, and you don't have a book on him. And so he'll give you 5 1/3, 5 2/3, give up an earned run, leave with runners on base, get the win. But the second time through the league, if he stayed, that was when the league caught up with you and figured out what your book was. I would posit the same thing happened in the playoffs with City, where you had no one looked at you. First game in a playoff series, okay, I don't know what I've got. Then in games 2 and game 3 was when you were found out and exposed, and that seemed to be, I guess, the issue. Come at me once, I don't know what I'm catching. Come at me more than once, I think I know what I'm dealing with. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Frankly, that's a really good comparison. I think I would even backdate it even more. I mean, I'd say our first spin through the league, most of the Western Conference opponents obviously went very positively in 2023. And then you hit the kind of midway or the turning point where I think we had either just about to enter or just came out of Leagues Cup, the first iteration of Leagues Cup, and it was downhill from there. We kind of limped our way into the playoffs. We limped our way to the Western Conference #1. We almost blew that, and obviously did not go very far in the playoffs as well. And I think really since that, it kind of feels like that was the turning point in this club, and we've kind of felt, found out with Carnell, couldn't get it back going again in 2024, and obviously we parted ways with him, and he's doing great things now in Philly. And then you bring on Olaf Melberg, and you see a lot of interim coach time as well. Olaf Melberg wasn't a fit. I think stylistically we're really trying to find or refine now our identity, because I think we thought we had it in year one, and you can call it an identity, but if the identity doesn't win you games, consistently, throughout the course of a season, it's not an identity really worth having. So I think we're really going to see some big changes from at least what we're trying to do with and without the ball this season with Johan Demey. I have a feeling that, cut from the same cloth and under the same, mentorship with Wilfred Nancy, and having guys that have a much higher level of comfortability on the ball, where we don't toss it around like a grenade. It's not just kick and run. It's not just give it to them and see if we can poach it off them in dangerous places. So, I mean, that's where I'm going. That I want to see that. I think that is where the modern game is going. There will be some big learning pains, obviously, along the way, because that's a dangerous thing to do. But you can see it in the recruitment style. Most of the guys we're getting have a level of comfortability with the ball that maybe we're not so used to seeing around here.
And I want to add on to that real quick, Jason. If you go back to our first season, yeah, we won our first 5 games. Awesome, getting 15 points. In the last 11 games of the season, so from August 26th on, we had 8 points through 11 games. So that's to your point. That's usually when you start playing teams for the second time, coming back around. We had 56 points in our first season, 37 the year after, only 32 last year. I can't keep going down. At some point we got to go up, but it's still very kind of topsy turvy and very fluid situation in St. Louis.
Yeah. So, when you mentioned grenade, it's like literally, did the ball have cooties at points offensively? I mean, it was just one of those where you're sitting there and you're going, I ain't touching that thing. Yeah.
No.
Was it that way at points?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely an over dramatization of it, but no, I definitely think from where we started, I can't think of many memorable moments, but I can even look back at the stats and say, when did we ever win possession? And I'm not saying possession is the key to victory, right? But it's what you do with the ball, and we were very effective when we had the ball, but we had so little of the ball, and that was on purpose. I think because we just knew that we didn't have the ball players to kill teams with possession, find those incisive passes, and pick them apart like other teams can. That just wasn't our style. And I think we're going to try to slowly get back into that a little bit more. But we were way down one side of the spectrum to start in 2023. And I think we're kind of working our way to the other side. But again, that takes a lot of confidence, takes a lot of chemistry, takes a lot of training time, really kind of honing those tactics and what DeMay wants to bring in. By the way, we still haven't seen a game yet, right? We're still in preseason. That's just a lot of speculation at this point. But if it's anything like where he came from in Columbus, you'd imagine that's kind of what he wants to do here.
Early loss. That is not me calling. Red Bulls get a 3-1 win back on the 24th, 2-2 draw with Tampa on the 28th. And then you're going to Indio to take on Portland today, as a matter of fact. And then you head to Coachella Valley to take on Austin, LAG, and then you're back in India to take on DC United back on the 14th to wrap up preseason. Let me ask the fan question, Justin. What's been the vibe with all of this change? Let me go back to the Joao Klaus move first. What was the vibe when Klaus was shipped to LAG? Was it tiki torches and pitchforks? I mean, what was the response?
No, I don't think so. I would say on a first glance, it's like, wow, how are we getting rid of this guy? How are we going to replace it? How are we going to score? I think from a fan perspective, that's exactly how you should look at it, right? But from a business perspective, $2.4 million on a guy that has 1 year left, it's not a terrible move by City from that perspective. However, I think as we've already talked about, with this team trending down, I don't think it screams that you're really working towards the fans at this point. Like, you want to hold on to that guy for this season. You want to show that you're working towards something. I understand, yeah, the cash is nice, but if you don't have an immediate backup plan, you just saw this happen with PSV and Ricardo Pepi. They originally agreed to that deal with Fulham, and then they're like, whoa, we don't have a backup plan. Ours fell through. We're not doing it. Kind of wish City would have went through with something like that, in my opinion. Not saying it had to be the exact same, but yeah, it's upsetting to see him go in that sense, specifically for Klaus. But we're here now. We have the cash. What can we do with it? But as far as like where are we at as a fan group, I don't want to say that's it. Like, it's been so many moves that I don't even think people have really had the time to realize, like, where are we going to be in the standings? I was kind of shocked when we saw like David Gus and those guys on Soccer Wise. They set our points line at 42.5. That is a 11-point increase from last season.
Okay.
Quite the jump, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think some people see some optimism in this team. I think right now it's still like, let's pump the brakes. I don't even know for sure what formation we're going into. It's likely going to be 3 center backs, but there is a lot of moving parts. So I don't even think people have had time to like breathe and reassess this team.
So then, Jake, where is the offense going to come from?
That's the $1 million question right now. I mean, I think it revolves around a couple of pieces. I think it revolves obviously around Marcel Hartel, getting a version of him at least on par with last year, if not better. You're going to absolutely need that. That's probably point number one to create for us, just because when the ball gets to his boot, his vision, his final pass, even his shooting. I mean, he's a great dynamic attacker to have. Got to have him clicking. I think Edu Leuven being available for the majority of the season, whether that's, he had some injury issues last year, also had some family stuff going on as well. If you can count on him consistently throughout a season to be that 8, that box-to-box guy that also kind of chips in with, the occasional goal from a set piece here or there, but his delivery is great. His vision is great. His passing from deep is amazing. I mean, nothing like that in this team outside of Leuven. So you got to have him available as well to help kind of connect, defense to attack. And then you're going to need someone up top to have a really strong season and say, okay, Klaus is gone. This is my time. I think it's probably going to be starting with Simon Betcher. And, he's shown us a little bit of flashes of both throughout his time with us so far, where he can be hot, he can be scoring, he can take low XG chances and convert on those and find the right places. But last year he was finding the right places, just not able to slot that final finish away. So it's going to come to a Betcher or a McSorley, even, a draftee from a couple years back on, I think they're going to get a run here. I don't think we're going to sign that 9 right away and put him right into the 11 to come for our first, match here coming up in a couple weeks now. So it's going to take a lot of things going really, really well, injuries being staved off, and someone finding form up top that, give the ball to me, I'm going to put it in the back of the net. So it's going to take a lot. The attack is where I'm most concerned at this point, I think.
Marcel Hartel Holiday Inn. Okay. Justin, what about our guy Mekhi Joyner? I mean, where is he in this process? He lights up on the 2s and he lights up next pro. What's the curve on our gentleman Joyner?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of talk through our depth chart. We're huge fans of Mekhi Joyner. I think it's a young guy that obviously that needs to get more time with this team, especially with the openings that we have. The thing is that we do have a lot of we're pretty heavy on the attacking side of guys that can fill roles, but I don't know who's going to take it. So when you think about who else could start, it would be Celio Pompeo. He's probably getting in behind him. Toy Shirt as well. And then you also have Caden Glover and Brendan McSorley. So that's if you keep him in the front. I know you can also play him if we're doing three center backs. You can probably play him at a wide winger, right back or left back. Thank you, as Santos, and so we have some other guys there. But ultimately, I do think that you're going to see a much more increased role for him in this team. I would love to see him stay up with the first team for the majority of the season. Obviously, it's one of those young guys where you don't want to stunt his growth by just calling him up to keep him on the bench and be like, oh, you're there, you're in the squad. Like, no, get some minutes with City too. However, when he is in the squad, put that man on the field because he's a difference maker. And Jake's already mentioned it. We're going to have trouble scoring, and he knows how to find the back of the net. Led the MLS Next Pro, I believe, in the entire MLS Next Pro last season. So for goals per minutes played. And so he's a guy that I would love to see a little bit more this season.
426 goals per minutes played. That's the actual statistic. I'm kidding. But I mean, we've been high on seeing what Joyner and McSorley have been able to do at the Next Pro level. And then McSorley had the cup of coffee and cup competitions, and you got to see what he was able to do there. So we are thumbs up on the young guys and letting them shine as well. So Jake, as Justin was going through the offensive scoring section of the depth chart, what has been the feedback on Yoann Demay so far in St. Louis with him taking over there? What's the feedback been like?
Yeah, it's still so difficult right now because we've obviously seen and heard so little from him, just given it's, still preseason, and he wasn't hired that long ago. It's been less than, I think, 2 months. I want to get the exact date, but it's not been long. So, for him, the comments that he made coming in were, impactful. Like, the guy wants to win. He clearly, I think, throughout the interview process, noticed and clocked there was a level of misalignment, maybe sometimes between some of the sporting staff and what was going on the field. So I think for him, it's a project, right? I do think that he looks at this and is realistic and realizes that he might not have all the tools in the shed ready to go for this season. But I also believe that from an ownership perspective, they've probably communicated to him that we're not going to be the same like we were with Olaf Melberg or Carnell in year 2. We realize this is very much in its infancy. We're going to give you the reins and the leeway to make this what you need to make it. Obviously, you got to sprinkle in some wins and bide some time here and there. But, I think Yoann realizes that he's got a little bit of runway with this team to do what he wants to do. And what he wants to do is probably a little more complex than what we've been used to doing as a club. So as a person, he's a little more reserved, definitely, than what we've seen before. Like coming from the last interim that I'm just totally blanking on right
Melberg.
now. Yeah, well, not even Olaf, but
Rich.
Yeah, Critchley, John was so fun on the microphone during the press conferences. He was very forthcoming, very kind of uppity. And I don't think Demay is that same level of energy. He's a lot more matter of fact. And like Justin, I think, highlighted earlier, then there are some things that he's already kind of laying at least some thoughts out that we're going to be seeing differently. Like, for a guy like Conrad Wallen, we mentioned, he's an incoming this year, but he was a loan last year. So he's kind of a same face before. But Wallen played every position on the field last year at different times for different reasons. This is I think DeMay wants him to stay at a left wing back or a right wing back position and really make that his own and master that craft. He's also mentioned, like Justin talked about, Polvara, stepping back into the center back. So I think for him, he's bringing more of that technical skill to the back line so that we can actually use the back line as a fulcrum or as the beginning of an attack versus, our last ditch on defending, like, just one dimensional, maybe a two-dimensional type defense. But he's mentioned positional flexibility, a lot of things you heard during the Nancy reign in Columbus. So it's a lot of speak at this point. I'm not going to weigh too heavily on like where I think he's at and how I think it's going so far until we really get some matches under the belt. But I think we're excited. He's got something to prove. Hasn't had this position before, like on a permanent basis. So I think that's for a lot of guys, honestly, that we've hired and brought in. This is a very much a prove it type of front office right now that's brought in some now experience with Ali Mackay. But a lot of players as well are out there to prove it and show that you belong at this level and you're going to be a part of this project.
Well, considering that Missouri is a part of the discussion, it is a show me year. I think that for St. Louis. Justin, what went wrong with Olaf Melberg?
There's a lot there.
Dude, we got Tom. I just don't want you to get in trouble with the regular gig.
No. We're fine. I'll sum it up pretty quickly, though. I think one, when they hired him, he said that a style of play that he was able to play was then ultimately not what he played when he brought it over here. So that's what Carolyn Kindle said. You got to take it all with a grain of salt, right? Like maybe he didn't say that, but he's a scapegoat. He's out, so he can't say anything else afterwards. So two, he lost the locker room. To be completely honest, we've heard from players and some other people that ultimately the attitude that he had towards the game and the players, it just didn't feel very serious. You probably could have noted that with his hair, beard, flip-flops, and whatnot. But ultimately he was doing like crossbar challenges before and during practices, like while the guys are playing, like by himself.
Dude's
so it's like at some point,
coaching MLS basically. The only thing missing was the pullover that you get at Stuckey's, I guess. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. So I mean, there was a lot that went wrong, and it went wrong very quickly. I will say the team was not performing. You can't place it all on the guy. But I think when you lose the locker room, it shows on the field very quickly, and that's something that he had, and that's honestly something that we had with Carnell towards the end there as well. Obviously, Carnell has done very well up in Philadelphia, but at some point, once the guys stop liking who they're playing for, it just, you lose the enjoyment on the field and off the field.
So then, Jake, who persevered? Who on the roster this season persevered through all of that madness and actually showed out and gave that, okay, there's some promise with this individual, this was a good pickup, regardless of formation, regardless of coach, whether it was Melberg or Critch or the early Christmas present with Yohan DeMay, who has persevered through this the most, you think?
Man, yeah, persevere. There's definitely a couple players that come to mind in terms of, if I just want to be objective about it and share some stats. But Marcel Hartel, I think, is one of those that you kind of, played at different places on the pitch throughout the different types of coaches that were here last year. But starting off under Olaf, he, I think, covered the most ground in distance in the MLS last year. And that's not something you really say about a lot of those creative 10s. But that effort wasn't lost on us. The ability for him to find those chances created, he was in the top echelon in MLS for that as well. So I definitely think he is a guy that, regardless of who was on the touchline, he was going to be one of your, consistent 7, 8, point performers out of 10 every match. Just because if there wasn't a Hartel in the lineup, I don't know where we would have been. I'm trying to think, because honestly, it was such a weird season because there were so many injuries and you really didn't get a lot of consistency out of guys. But I think from maybe like the quarter way through the rest, I also think Klaus was one of those guys that obviously he got this move. The Galaxy believe in him, and he put up 10 goals for us last year. And that's not a lot, but he was a team leader in that. Hartel was right beneath him coming up into the last match day. And he made the most of those opportunities, and he kind of found his goal-scoring boots. I can name more, John, guys that did not take advantage of the situation and did not, perform up to expectations, and probably led to them, being on the bench and also being looked at a little more critically in this window right now. Like I can think of a Toy Shirt who just didn't have it last year. And compared to what he was doing in 24 towards the end of the season, just banging goals for fun, didn't have it. He had a down year. Our back line, we were roasted. I mean, the goals against ballooned last year as well. It was just a really, really trying season for a lot of guys. I think a Wallem maybe was another good example where he was a positivity. I mean, he played midfield, played both sides of the wing backs, played fullback. I mean, he played everywhere on the pitch and showed his versatility, which was so needed last year. But you also then, if you play a guy everywhere, where is he really going to excel and be the best at? And so that's why I'm hoping we kind of turn that corner this year. But those are some of the names that come to mind for me.
Okay, so are there any to add since Jake was saying these dudes didn't? Justin, was there anybody else in your mind that didn't last year, as opposed to those that did in having the rough year that St. Louis had?
I mean, it unfortunately, if we're going to add to the didn't list, it's a lot of the guys that were injury plagued. So if we look at like a Henry Kessler, I would have loved to see a lot more out of him. And then other than that, it's like Thomas Dolan didn't get a whole lot of minutes, which now he should be our starting right back. So I do want to give these guys a little bit of an out in the fact that they did have another interim coach that they didn't like. So once you start with that, then you're midseason. And by the time that he was let go, we were pretty much screwed. Like we would have had to go on an incredible run to make the playoffs. So there's a lot of tinkering and different styles that were being had with Critch, and nothing wrong with that for Critch to try to figure it out, try to see if we can turn it around. But for some of these guys like Vollem, it's like, how do you know where you're going to play if you're going to play? But I do want to add to that and say some of the best ability is availability. And Marcel Hallertau was second in the MLS in minutes played for field players, only behind Carlos Gil. 9 goals, 6 assists for us. So that is true, just hard work and effort, as Jake mentioned, covering the most ground. So he's a huge call out, and I think it's going to be another one for Conrad Vollem. Connor, even though he was all over the place, didn't have a consistent starting spot or even consistent starter, he was still second in the team in minutes with Joao Klaus. So that's a guy that was also just working his butt off, and I'm happy to have both of them.
Got to mention McSorley. Got to mention McSorley, John. You already mentioned him. Justin mentioned him before. That guy, he was a late bloomer, right? He wasn't really in the picture starting the season, but he scored a brace into the season, really found his form. I feel like Justin and I were here for it. The exhibition match we played against Aston Villa, where he came on in the second half and did not care what these jersey names said, both the logo and the name. He was a kid and he was a bull in a china shop. Like did not give any regard to his body nor the opponent in a positive way. Like he wasn't being cheap out there, but the tenacity, the energy that he brought to that game, I think he left an indelible mark on Critchley at the time and the staff, because obviously they gave him, a vote of confidence, got some late starts, got some goals. I'm really, really curious to see if that was lightning in a bottle, and that was just like, I got my chance, I'm going to put everything into this, or if that's just who he is as a player, and you're going to expect to see just a tenacious, fox in the box type poacher in McSorley, because the fans loved what he put out, because it's hard not to, right? Like this guy's leaving it all out there. He's bringing some output as well. That's easy to get behind.
And I just have this vision now of human bumper cars with Brendan McSorley. And
yeah.
Seeing what that's going to look like at the 18. I found the goal stats from last year, and it was Joao Klaus double figures with 10, and this is MLS. This is not all comps. This is straight up MLS. Marcel Hartel Holiday in with 9, Leuven with 6, Toyshirt and Bashir with 3 each. So you've got a big drop off. You literally got 3 dudes with 25 goals of your output in Major League Soccer. Then Toyshirt and Bashir each with 3, Pompeu McSorley with 2, Vollem, Hebert, Akil Watch, Josh Yarrow, Ostrak, Sangbin, Orozco, and Makai Joyner were the ones that scored other than that. So, 3 dudes with 25 and then a lot of dreaded others down that list.
And one's gone.
Yeah, and one of them, and almost half of those 10 is now gone. So I would say, but to your point that we've been talking about for these young guys, Makai Joyner, I know we joked about like 426 goals per minute. He did have 18 goal contributions in 1,076 minutes. So he had a goal contribution every 60 minutes for City 2. And then also when you go and look at Brendan McSorley, he was more of a mainstay on City 2 and he had 23 games played, 23 starts. He had 8 goals and 8 assists. So I really do think that if both of those guys can bring just even a little bit of that, and I would love to see both of them maybe have 3 to 5 goals each and be like that 3rd to 4th goal scorer for this team. That's just raising that base that you already talked about, John, that just like absolutely falls off. So I think it's one that's going to be very important for us, that we're going to give these guys some time and some minutes. But you did mention one there that we haven't talked about at all, Sangbin. I think he is going to be a very interesting X factor for us. He's going to be up there on the right wing. Brought him in from Minnesota. He's flashy, he's fast, and I think he's going to be an important role for this team.
So I want to ask Jake about the environment there. Obviously, the announcement yesterday that came out for LA 28 that Energizer is going to be a part of the East goes West when it comes to everything soccer, which I think it's a cool idea because you want to expose the country to everything when it comes to the soccer competition in the LA Olympics in 28. What has there been staying power when it comes to the fan base ever since everything rolled out, and or is it the dips and flows with wins and losses, or has it been fairly static with a new franchise in Major League Soccer? What has the involvement, enthusiasm level been so far?
I would say static couldn't be further from the truth for this fan base. I mean, very much a roller coaster. And I think a lot of it, frankly, goes back to year one, where a lot of new fans, right? Like, not all people, when St. Louis City shows up in St. Louis, were huge MLS fans or even huge soccer fans. They just wanted to support like a local team here. And to be spoiled in that way and win first in your conference that year, I think it just set an unfair precedent or an expectation in a lot of fans' minds that this is where we kind of belong. You know, we're St. Louis and everyone's got, your bias towards St. Louis sports. And when you're not there, you're not doing enough. And I definitely think this fan base is at a little bit of a lull right now, where we're definitely in a show me state where, what we've seen the last 2 years, we've been promised a lot of things and even goals have been shared outright in very public forums on where we want to be, what we want to do. And they've been missed. And there's not much to hang your hat on right now. I definitely think we try to maintain some level of an even keel, just knowing the game a little bit more than maybe some of the casual fans, that this is just, it takes time. And what you did in year one is just not an expectation to have for this franchise moving forward. But I think more than anything, I loved that news yesterday. I think people probably overlook the significance of that, having the Olympics back, by the way, in St. Louis, having been hosts in 1904 during, I think, the second iteration of this first soccer tournament there. So, little fun fact for everyone. But no, like some people, John, might hear that and be like, "Wow, that's so cool!" Like St. Louis, we're the Olympics. So you might say, "I'm not talking about St. Louis soccer scene until you sign me another DP number 9." So I think there's people that feel very hurt and they need, show me the money. They want to see that product on the field, the thing that we've been promised, or at least that you showed us in year one. When do we return to that? Wake me up when that comes. There are others that are along for the ride. I'd say like us, that are riding through the ups and downs. And that's part of being a fan. In my opinion, like, you can't have the ups without some of these downs and these lulls. So I think the fan base is really volatile at times, and just high expectations, loud people on social media. But honestly, when it comes down to it, they show up. They definitely show up at Energizer Park.
And
So
it's going to be an interesting summer, because if you haven't seen as well, John, the Blues are down bad. We are 22-1 to make the playoffs. The Cardinals win total is dropping below 70 right now. I think you can get it at 69.5 on DraftKings as well. So this City team, they're going to be having more fans because people are going to be looking for something else to watch. And I really hope that they can take that opportunity and do the best with it.
So then my main question as we wrap up, and thank you for going into added time on this, is why isn't Country Grammar the goal song?
It's a great question. I've seen people legitimately post that exact thought on X, on Instagram multiple times. Actually, it's sometimes I feel like I've heard it as the goal song. It's not always consistent with us, and frankly, we didn't score a lot of goals last season, the ones that we're used to. So it's like my mind is somewhere else entirely when you score a goal. I'm like, wow, this is a miracle. Can't wait to talk about this in the show, that we actually put a tally up on net. But it's got to be. It's absolutely got to be. You got to have that local pride. They have a lot of cool stuff going on with the stadium in terms of experience, what they try to do. But Nelly's been a game ball guy that brought the game ball out and hypes up the fans beforehand. He's easy money. Everyone knows that. Like, everyone knows Nelly. I'm all in support of that.
I mean, Justin, when the stadium first was completed, and this is just me, and I was looking on social media, I literally saw people testing the sound system inside the stadium, and you're hearing that verse, and I'm going, slam dunk. Oh my God, this is it. This you're done. That's easy. And then all of a sudden, it disappears.
We're getting. I think we've gotten a lot into like that techno, younger EDM type stuff. I will say they did include some Metro Boomin. He's from St. Louis, but no one knows that as much as Nelly. It needs to be. I'm from the Lou and I'm proud. Shake a tail feather. It's hot in here. Give it everything. I don't care. Let's just rotate through them for all 7 goals we're going to score this year.
I mean, for me, literally, it's like I'm from the Lou and I'm proud. I'm like, okay, you're done. I mean, that was the easiest thing for me in all of this to get everything squared away. Guys, I cannot thank you for doing this, especially now that we're going to finish up before 9 o'clock in the morning in God's time zone. Just ask the boss about that one. Jake, Justin, Jake hit the promo for me. And then Justin, if you missed anything, go ahead and hit him from behind and finish it up. How do folks consume, how do folks watch are watching balls with you in St. Louis?
I mean, everywhere now, right? Yeah, you can find us at Ball Watching STL on X, on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Threads. We're on TikTok now, dipping our toe in those waters. And yeah, we in spite of all these negative times, we try to post some fun stuff on social media. So even if you're not about the podcast, check us out. We post some really, really fun clips and bits, GIFs, whatever on social media, just to like bring a little bit of levity to some of the situation here. But yeah, at Ball Watching SCL, shoot us a follow, shoot us a like, subscribe on YouTube, and hop on now because we're hoping that we're heading back uphill.
Okay, and I thought like now, like the second that you're hanging up with me, you're doing like an or something, Justin. I was like, what? You're going live before you go to work? Okay, just checking.
No, that was a work call that I got earlier. So sorry for that. I was like, hey, I will call you back right after this. But no, to Jake's point, it's been a lot of fun in St. Louis. We are very realistic with this team, but also keeping a positive spin on it. We could not be more excited as well, just in general for the World Cup coming to the U.S. We are doing something big with Ballpark Village, which is right outside of the Cardinals. They're having us host the 3rd game, which is Thursday night, 9 p.m. They're going to take the Cardinals game off, and we're going to be on the mics across Ballpark Village. So we're just pumped to have soccer, just period, having it grow. You've seen it, John, obviously, and we appreciate you having us on and spreading this. But let's continue to ride this wave of soccer and continue to build on it because the World Cup is going to be an awesome time in U.S.
Epic, as always. Jake and Justin at Ball Watching STL. Consume their material, people. They know what they're talking about. Do not be strangers, gentlemen. I'm glad we got to do this preview before you guys were heading to Coachella, meaning the club, not necessarily you, unless you're going to Coachella to see everything going on and consume it that way. You know that you are not strangers here. You can crash it at any time, and I know that I'll be knocking on your door if things are going on that we need to discuss. As always, guys, thanks for dropping by, especially in the middle of the week when chaos usually reigns.
Of course. Thanks, John. Appreciate having us on.